Hi, my name is Hat here. I'm bringing you week 13 of the GBA Season 2. This game is against Coatay and the Toronto Maple Leafs, and this is going to be a very good game. Not only is it a kind of a deciding factor for both of us in terms of the playoffs, being that there is only 14 weeks, and we're both kind of still in that hunt for the playoff spots. But we knew it was going to be a good game right off the bat once Coatay got Polytoad and Kabutops from Kyle and the Chicago Grambles in a trade, making him basically have a premier Rain team going against my Sand team, which is a good throwback to the Gen 5, which Coatay and I both disliked greatly. But I believe if Coatay wins, he clinches a playoff spot, and if I win, it makes my week 14 a hell of a lot easier in actually going through and getting into the playoffs. Looking at his team, or actually before we get into that, this match actually was had on Sunday, the earliest day we could have played our match without having to schedule it early. Because Coatay and I are both incredibly busy this week. So if you see anything that doesn't look necessarily right, a lot of that is due to the lack of time. I planned for this game maybe 2 hours beforehand, and he did about the same. We had to get it done on Sunday night. But looking at his team, I knew that Kabutops was going to be an issue. I knew that Kingdra was going to be an issue, and I knew that Amoonguss was going to be an issue, and that's why you'll see I do have Charizard there. It might not have been the best idea, but I figured I needed something to get rid of Amoonguss, and I needed the potential, if Rain wasn't up, to mess with Kingdra. But I'm going to lead off with my Zelf here to get screens up. I was actually expecting him to lead with Polytoad just to get Rain up right away, but he's going to lead with Claydol because his goal is to get rocks, but he figures he might as well get damage. He does get a crit, and it wasn't the biggest deal, mainly because Azelf is pretty frail in that sense, but the main thing is I can't heal myself with Azelf directly, so he just gets more damage. But luckily with the light screen, the crit isn't as big of a deal, but he is going to get his rocks up, which basically leaves Charizard useless. And as soon as I saw a team preview without Amoonguss, I knew Charizard was my pivot death fodder switch. He's going to then just get his rocks up and switch into Polytoad, preserve his wall as I'm Grass Knot, and I have the light screen up. I do have the light clay. This Zelf is slightly different than the one I did bring against Steve last week, but the dual screens are still there. But I'm going to switch out into my specially defensive Registeel. I'm not sure what he wanted to do. Maybe Toxic, maybe get off a Scald. I figure Registeel is going to be who I want to do. And I might reveal this play a little too early. But as soon as he went into Manaphy, I knew I had to get rid of this Rain. And I actually ran Manual Sandstorm on Registeel. Had I maybe brought this play out a little later, and kept it hidden right there, he might have actually sacked Polytoad off earlier than he did as soon as Hippowdon is gone, because there'd be no need for him to keep the Rain around. But once he saw this Sandstorm, he knew that he had to keep Polytoad around a little bit longer than he did. But I'm gonna switch out because the only status condition I do have on that Registeel is Thunder Wave, which obviously I can't do anything to this Quagsire. And I did pack Thunder Punch this game in case, but I do have Earthquake, but I figured there's no point in doing anything against Clefable, or against Quagsire, because he's going to hit on the physical side, and I'm especially defensive Registeel, so I'm going to go into my physically defensive Clefable and absorb the Toxic that I figured was going to be coming, because that prevents sleep or any kind of other random thing that I might get. But I'm going to just fire off a Moonblast, and looking back, had I Calm Minded there, this game would have been entirely different. And I thought about it, but I figured I need to get damage on this Quagsire because he more than likely did have Unaware. There is no point in me setting up, even though he probably in the long run couldn't have done anything to me, but it would have fished for a crit. So I might have been able just to keep Calm Minding and Soft Boiling, so eventually I could have taken him out and it would have been a different game. But same here, if I would have Calm Minded right here, this would have been another very crucial play to the game. I didn't really want to set up too much though, just because I knew that Quagsire was around with Unaware, and to me there was no point of setting up and then having something come in saying, hey, all your boosts are irrelevant. But that did do a nice chunk to Manaphy. Had it done a little more than just brought it just a little under 50%, it would have been fantastic. because then he knew he wouldn't have been able to stay in. But he's going to go for the tail globe to get to the +3. I'm at +2 special defense. So I'm still not too scared. He is in the rain, but I know I can take at least one. And this puts him in an awkward situation that does he rest or does he try to just damage and lose mana fee getting rid of this? And I figured the rain's up. It'd be stupid for him not to rest. So I'm going to Calm Mind. And that because just getting damage, he'll wake up this at the end. He's going to wake up at the end of this turn because of the rain. And it'll just start the process over again. So if I get this Calm Mind up, his tail glow is not as scary as it used to be. And I know that I'm going to be doing more damage to him because he can't raise his special defense. And it also kills another turn of rain. So he's going to surf, and it is going to bring me down under 50%. And this Moonblast, though, is going to hurt quite a bit. It's going to bring him right to that cusp of 50% where is it a 2-8 KO or not. But he is faster, so I know that I have to switch out. And I'm looking at my team, and I go, you know what? Charizard is the sacrificial death fodder of this game. There's no point of keeping it around. It's not going to set up with Quagsire. I don't want to risk speed tying with Manaphy because I am adamant. And so I figured I need a safe switch into something, and Charizard is my most useless thing. So Charizard just went down, especially because it took an automatic 50% from the rocks, and I had no way of getting rid of them. But it does at the same time kill an extra turn of rain. I'm not too worried about this Manaphy. So I go into Thundurus, and I figured there's no way he's staying in. And because of that, because he knows if he stays in, he's dead. And he needs his Manaphy around to handle some of my other threats. So I figure he doesn't know that I have Nasty Plot, and this is the perfect time to go for it. Because he's probably going into Quagsire or Claydol to get rid of the electric immunity. And I figured if I Nasty Plot up, I'm going to be able to start ripping holes into teams, and I'm also going to be into his team and be able to get rid of the rain a little quicker. I do carry Hidden Power Grass. Coatay actually told me after the game that he thought I was carrying Hidden Power Ice for whatever reason, or Hidden Power Flying for a Moongus, but I figured Hidden Power Grass just because of how painful Quagsire is to get rid of with my team. And he told me after the game that he was scared when I got this Nasty Plot off. And that it does take a lot of balls to sit right in front of a Manaphy that you know can kill you with a Tail Glow and go, I'm just going to set up on it. But I had to take the risk versus reward, and I figured if I'm going to start making plays, this is exactly what I need to do, is make these plays. And it really pays off. I wish this Hidden Power would have done just a little more. I don't know if that was min-max. I don't know if he had specially defense EVs in this. I'm assuming this was a specially defensive wall and Quagsire was the physically defensive wall. But it would have been nice if I could have taken it out, or if I had a light screen up, because that does hurt a lot, that Ice Beam. Luckily it's not stab, and Claydol is not a huge physical attacker, or special attacker in that sense, but it's just, with rocks up, I wish I could have killed it. That Ice Beam did a little more than I would have liked. But I'm just going to keep going for that Hidden Power, and I take out Quagsire without this thing actually doing anything important in this battle. So that's really good for me. You know, Quagsire is out of the way. I don't have to worry about it anymore, and that's a huge stress off my back right there. You have Claydol's almost dead, and you have Manaphy, who's pretty weak, as well as Politoed. Now he's going to switch into his Politoed to set the rain up, and I don't know if he was baiting the Thunder here or not, or he was just trying to get the rain up, but he's going to switch back into Claydol as Death Fodder as I Thunder. I knew that if I Grass Knot was the safest play, but my thought process for this was if he switches out into a Swift Swimmer, it's going to take massive damage. If he switches out into Claydol, which is immune to the Thunder, it's irrelevant because all it does is get me more leftovers. It gives me a turn more of leftovers and burns one more turn of rain. And I figured if he wanted to stay in with Politoed, I got rid of his rain right there. But I figured Politoed is here to stay because I still have my Hippowdon that has not hit the field. Now I figured Kabutops or Kingdra were going to come in, but I figured Kabutops is the better play. Now he did see Nasty Plot, and he knows I'm probably Prankster in that regard, but he has no idea if I'm carrying dual Prankster abilities with Thunder Wave, or if I'm carrying a coverage move or sub or anything like that. And I thought about this a lot in real time. If the better play was to just Thunder Wave this Kabutops right from the get-go, and go from there and lose Thundurus in the process more than likely, or keep Thundurus around. I figured at this point I didn't know if he was Lumberry or Life Orb or Focus Sash or whatever he was, and looking at the rest of Coatay's team, I figured Thundurus was, at this point in time, my win condition that I needed to keep around, and sacking it off right now wasn't the smartest play. So I am going to go into Hippowdon. What my plan for this Hippowdon was to have a Pachot berry. However, that berry is incredibly difficult to get, which means I don't have it currently, and nobody at short notice had it. I know I had a few people ask on Twitter for me, and no one was able to come up with one, so I had to run leftovers. Had I gotten the Pachot, this would have been a little different because I am physically defensive. I could have easily taken that one waterfall with the Pachot, and then I could have lived another one, and I could have fired back an Earthquake. Because I couldn't live, or because I didn't have the Pachot, I was not able to live the 2 waterfalls and not get damage on this Kabutops outside of just getting the Life Orb. But at least now it did give me information it is Life Orb, and it got rid of Swift Swim with the rain. Here, this is kind of a questionable play. I have Thunderbolts on this Azelf as well as Grass Knot. I went for the Grass Knot because it did more to Kabutops, and that was the threat that I need to get rid of. Had I gone the Thunderbolt route, it probably would have taken Politoed out, which would have been great, but it would not have taken Kabutops out. And that was the main thing that I'm worried about here. Here he switches into Manaphy because Manaphy is really light, and he expected the Grass Knot because he didn't know I had Thunderbolt at this time. And the Thunderbolt, it almost kills, brings it down probably 5%. I'd have to look at Coatay's battle itself just to see what the actual damage variation was on that. But I figure he's going to switch, and I just went for another Thunderbolt because at this point Thunderbolt's hitting anything on the switch or it's killing stuff. And I do get a lucky paralysis right here. Of all turns to get the paralysis off the Thunderbolt, this was the turn to do it because this was a Swift Swim Kingdra. Now, here's another play that I really had to think about because this is basically a free play because I know I'm going to die and this Kingdra's staring me in the face, and so I go, do I get damage on it or do I set up a screen? The reason I didn't set up a screen was because I did not know what kind of Kingdra this was. I'm assuming it was Swift Swim because of the rain and not a sniper, but I didn't know if this was mixed. I didn't know if this was a physical Dragon Dance Kingdra. I didn't know if this was a special Kingdra. And looking at his team, I wasn't really able to pick it out because it could have gone both ways. So the reason I went for an attack was to just get damage on, because I wasn't 100% sure if Thunder could have killed from Thundurus. It probably could have in hindsight, looking back. But I figured instead of guessing wrong with the screen, I just should get damaged. Looking back, I should have just gone for the Reflect regardless. That's 8 turns of Reflect. That means Kabutops is severely weakened. That means that if this Kingdra is physical, which it turns out it is incredibly weakened if it somehow manages to live another attack. And that really could have been a huge game changer right there. Because thinking about it, there's no reason why Thundurus' Thunder wouldn't have killed this Kingdra at the health it was at from just the initial Thunderbolt. So that was probably the defining play right there. If I, should have gone for the Reflect or the Grass Knot. Now here is another play I kind of messed up on. He still hasn't seen the Thunder Wave, and I go, do I Thunder Wave here and sack Thundurus and hope to God that Clefable and Registeel can pull this out for me? Or do I hope that Registeel can take a hit on the switch, take another hit, and Thunder Wave there? Or just go for damage with Thunder Punch? And I make the play of switching out. In hindsight, I should have Thunder Waved, because what's going to happen is it's going to come down to me needing to get 2 paralyses in a row, and that's a lot harder to do than if I paralyze it and getting a paralysis anywhere along the next 3 or 4 turns. That crit more than likely didn't matter. It's Kabutops, it's in the rain, and I'm especially defensive Registeel, so even though I have that really good natural physical bulk, I don't think I was going to be able to take 2 hits unless I got maybe min for both of those, and even then I probably still would have taken me out. But this is now just Kabutops going on a late game mini sweep. Congratulations, Coatay, for this excellent game. I thought it was a great game, even though the score was 3-0. It's a lot closer than it really looks on score, just because Manaphy's at under 10%, and Polytoad's under 10%, and Kabutops is at about 50% here. But thanks to John, our Pokemon, for grabbing this battle for me. I'm glad that Coach and I were able to kind of work around each other's schedules, with us both being incredibly busy this week. So definitely go check out his side of the battle. He kind of went in with the same mentality I went in, of really picking apart threats and trying to figure out how to deal with them. And he was just able to execute this battle a little better. But he's a great commentator, great channel, so definitely go check him out with that Premier Reign team. But technically, we're still not eliminated from the playoffs, so Thunderous fans, don't worry too much. We do need a little bit of help from other teams, but as long as we beat Steve and the Milwaukee Saucebucks week 14, we're still possibly in the playoffs, which is a good thing. The worst we can end up is 7-7. Best we can do is 8-6. So I'm hoping we can end up 8-6. But outside of that, thanks for watching, and I will catch you week 14.